Okay, hands up if you've ever lost your keys, your bag has ever gone missing at the airport, or your sanity trying to leave the house on time has been blown out the window because of it. Well, this week we've got three big headlines. AirTag 2, Samsung's shiny new S26, AI revolution, and Sony's very expensive earbuds. But I'm going to filter all of that down into one simple thing for each. What actually matters in real life, especially if you're pushing middle age, like we are, and you'd rather not waste money on pointless upgrades. Welcome back to Tech News for the rest of us. I'm Tim, and this is the show where we ignore the marketing buzzwords and we just focus on the stuff that actually matters to real people like us. And a quick thank you to everyone who watched the pilot episode last week. The vote in the comments was pretty unanimous to let this format cook, to quote one of them. So here we are then, episode 2. Thanks for tuning in. Now, if this sounds like your kind of tech news, let's get into it. So then, let's start with the only Apple gadget this year that might actually save you time, and that is the AirTag 2. Now, usually when Apple releases a version 2 of something, it's thinner, faster, and 50 quid more expensive. But this update is actually, well, useful. Now on the outside, it looks exactly the same as the old one. It's the same white plastic, the same little silver disc. So if you were hoping for wild new colors or some kind of crazy redesign, that's not happening. But on the inside, they finally fixed the two things that made the original AirTag, this one, a little bit annoying. And first off, the range. They've put Apple's new U2 chip inside. No, don't worry, it doesn't come preloaded with the latest album from the Irish rockers that you didn't ask for. Remember when that happened? What it does mean is that precision finding, that little arrow on your phone that points you towards your keys like a compass, now works from much further away, and it will lock in on the device quickly. If you've used the old AirTags, you'll know the struggle. You wander around the house like a budget Ghostbuster, waving your phone in the air, waiting for it to pick up a signal. Well, with the AirTag 2, you can apparently get a proper lock from the next room, and it's much better in busy places like airports and train stations, where there can be a lot of wireless noise around there interfering with it. The second, and this is the big one for me, the speaker is louder. It's much louder, apparently. Because an AirTag is only useful if you can actually hear it. If it's buried in a thick winter coat, or it's down the side of the sofa, or at the bottom of a rucksack, something like that, that tiny little chirp on the original model, it may as well not exist, unless hearing aids are turned up. Now, Apple's claiming around twice the volume this time, and from the early hands-on stuff I've seen, you can actually hear it in a noisy room, which is kind of the whole point. The battery life, well, that's going to be about the same as before. It's around about a year, depending on how often you use it, and the price hasn't changed, which in 2026 is a minor miracle. It's still around the £29 for one, but it's cheaper if you buy a pack. So the bottom line on the AirTag 2, if you travel a lot, if you're in the designated "where did we put that" category person in your house, or you've been sitting on the fence with the first generation, this is finally the version I would say yes to. But if your current AirTags are working fine and you're not constantly losing things, don't rush to replace them. This is, however, a solid, boring, grown-up upgrade. This is proper dad tech stuff. It can solve a real problem without trying to be flashy. Now, everything today is going to be linked in the description below, so you can have a read up on all this stuff yourself in your own time. And if you spot any other bits of news, techie stuff that we should know about, then please add those in the comments as well. Right then, let's get back into the good stuff. On to the Samsung S26, the phone that Samsung is calling an AI revolution. Now, in day-to-day life, that usually translates to your phone opens your MySpace app slightly faster and the battery will last about the same. Samsung has officially announced their next Unpacked event for the end of February. This is going to be in San Francisco, and this is where we will see the Galaxy S26 lineup. Now, I want to manage your expectations here. If you've got an S24, or an S25, or honestly even an S23, you could probably make yourself a cup of tea during the launch and you're not going to miss very much. The rumours and the leaks and Samsung's own marketing, they all point to the same thing: AI. AI and more AI. We're talking about Galaxy AI everywhere. The phone that will supposedly write your messages for you, tidy your photos, summarise your notes, translate your calls in real time, and generally behave like that over-helpful colleague who keeps improving your work. But are there any hardware changes? They're pretty minimal. We are expecting the new Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5 chip in most regions. That sounds very fancy, but what it really means is apps will open a tiny bit quicker, games will run slightly smoother, and the phone is a little bit more efficient with power. The cameras are rumoured to be a mild tweak rather than a revolution, so slightly better low light performance, a bit better zoom, and maybe some smarter processing. The kind of stuff that's hard to see unless you put photos side by side and then you zoom right in on them. The design is, well, it's an S25, maybe with a new paint job, slightly slimmer bezels, maybe a different camera ring, but you're not going to walk down the street and have people say, "Whoa, is that the new S26? So what are we actually getting? We're going to get a lot of clever software that may or may not fit into your life. Things like AI photo editing, remove objects, change backgrounds, that kind of stuff. AI writing tools in your messaging apps, and translation features baked into calls and chats. For some people, especially if you travel a lot or you work across different languages, that could be genuinely useful. But for most of us, it's going to be fun for about a week and then we're going to forget about it. Samsung will, of course, like all of these manufacturers, present this as the future of smartphones. They have to, but if you're watching this and you're middle-aged, you probably care more about, does the battery last all day? Is the camera good on holiday? And will it still feel fast in 3 years' time? So, bottom line on the S26. If you're on an S24 or S25, you can absolutely sit this one out. Go make that cup of tea on launch day and feel very smug not upgrading and spending all that money. But if your phone is 3 or 4 years old, the battery's fading, or it's starting to feel slow, then yes, that S26 will be a nice jump, but mainly because any modern flagship version would be. The AI revolution is not a reason on its own to spend a 3 or even 4-figure sum on this new bit of kit. For most people, this looks like a very safe, very predictable upgrade. Not bad, just not exciting. Now, if you're still here, you're exactly who I make this video for, grown-ups who like tech but don't want to live on spec sheets. So then let's talk about the one gadget this week that might actually improve your day, and that is proper noise cancelling earbuds. Sony's new WF-1000 that's a lot to say. These are the latest version of Sony's premium in-ear noise cancelling earbuds, and they sit firmly in the "this costs how much" category. Sony's XM series has been the go-to recommendation for a lot of reviewers for a few years now. Great sound, great noise cancelling, slightly chunky design. But the XM6 are basically Sony saying, right, let's fix the last few annoyances, and also we're going to charge you more for the privilege. So what is actually new? First up, the noise cancelling itself. The XM5s were already very good at dulling the low rumble of trains and planes, that low frequency noise. Now the XM6, they push harder into the higher frequencies, things like human voices, clattering cutlery in a cafe, that one loud person on a conference call, on the train. Now for anyone who commutes, you travel a lot, or you work in a noisy house, for example, this can make a real difference. It's the difference between this is quieter and I can actually relax now. Second, Sony's changed the fit and the design again. They're a bit more compact, a bit more comfortable for smaller ears. They've tweaked the ear tips to get a better seal, which is good. So if you've ever had earbuds that constantly feel like they're about to fall out, that alone might be worth the upgrade. Battery life is roughly where you'd expect. It's a full work day with noise cancelling on if you dip in and out, but more if you're just using them for the commute. And the case, well, that does the usual top-ups. They've also pushed the price up. No surprise there. We're well into premium territory now, so this is very much a considered purchase rather than an impulse buy. So then who are these actually for? Well, like I said, if you spend hours each week traveling, trains or planes, that kind of stuff, or if you work in an open plan office, or if you're trying to get some peace in a house that sounds like a soft play centre, then genuinely good noise cancelling is not a toy. It can be a sanity saver. If you mostly listen to podcasts while cooking in a quiet kitchen, or you're just walking the dog around the block, your current earbuds are absolutely fine. You don't need to spend the money on them. Stick with your AirPods Pro 2, for example. So the verdict on the Sony XM6, if noise, other people's noise, is a regular source of stress and you've got the budget, these will feel less like a gadget and more like a health investment. But if you're not dealing with that kind of environment, don't let YouTube convince you that you need them. You don't. Although I do understand that need and want are the same thing. We're getting sidetracked. However, I think I may just dip into these anyway and compare them with the AirPods Pro 3, which Zoe has. And she commutes a fair bit during the week. So would that be a good test? What do you think? Can we trust a short blonde bird with big blue eyes to review that for us? Now, if this has helped you skip some of the nonsense and make a calmer decision about upgrading, do me a favour, hit the like button so I know to keep this going, and let me know in the comments which of these three you'd actually spend your own money on, or if the answer is none of them. Next week, we're going to be doing the same thing with another batch of headlines, potentially a bit more detail on that Samsung S26 once the launch is done, and of course, whatever Apple and the rest of the industry throw at us, but with the same no hype approach, just the useful bits for middle-aged people like you and I, and who've got better things to do than watch every launch event. So if that sounds good, hit the subscribe button and I'll see you next Friday. All right, as ever, thanks very much for watching. Stay active and I'll see you in the next one.